The day I handed Mary the divorce papers, she laughed in my face. She actually laughed. Standing in our living room, surrounded by her friends, Sarah and 3 others who were always around, she looked at me like I had just told the funniest joke in the world. I will never forget that sound. It was not a nervous laugh or an uncomfortable one. It was pure mockery. Sarah grabbed the papers from Mary's hand and read them out loud, while the others giggled. They thought I was bluffing. They thought I would never actually leave. For 5 years, I had been the invisible husband. The man who paid the bills, cooked the meals, and cleaned up after their endless parties. I was the one who worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital as a nurse, only to come home and find my house filled with strangers eating my food and drinking my expensive wine. Mary never asked if it was okay. She never considered my feelings. Her friends were her priority. Always. And I was tired. So tired that my hands shook as I signed those papers. So tired that I did not even feel angry anymore. Just empty. Mary finally stopped laughing when she saw my face. For the first time in years, she actually looked at me. Really looked at me. "What's wrong with you, David?" she asked, still smiling like this was some kind of game. I did not answer. I just walked out of the house, got into my car, and drove away. I heard her calling my name, but I did not stop. Not this time. Because I had spent 5 years being invisible, and I was done. The sound of her laughter echoed in my ears as I drove down the street. But it was not just her laughter I heard. It was the laughter of all those years. All those moments when I had tried to speak up, tried to be heard, and was dismissed. All those times I had walked into my own home feeling like an intruder. All those nights I had gone to bed alone while my wife entertained strangers in our living room. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. This was it. The end of everything I had built. The end of the man who had sacrificed everything for someone who never saw him. And somehow, despite the pain, I felt something else. Relief. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met Mary 7 years ago at a charity event. She was volunteering, handing out food to homeless people with the brightest smile I had ever seen. She was beautiful, yes, but it was her energy that pulled me in. She laughed easily, talked to everyone like they were old friends, and had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. I was a young nurse back then, fresh out of school and struggling to make ends meet. Mary came from a wealthier family. Not rich, but comfortable. Her parents owned a small business, and she had grown up without worrying about money. I, on the other hand, had worked 3 jobs to pay for nursing school. My childhood was not easy. My father left when I was 8 years old. My mother worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. I learned early that nothing in life comes easy. That you have to work for everything. And I did. I studied hard, graduated top of my class, and landed a good job at a reputable hospital. But none of that mattered when I was with Mary. She made me forget about all the struggles. All the hard times. She made me feel light. We started dating a month after we met. Everything felt easy with her. She was spontaneous and fun, always dragging me to new restaurants or random road trips. I loved how alive she made me feel. I had spent so much of my life being serious, focused on work and responsibilities. Mary taught me how to relax. How to enjoy life. She would show up at the hospital after my shift with takeout food and a big smile. "David, you work too hard," she would say. "Let's go do something fun." And I would. I would follow her anywhere. Because when I was with Mary, I felt like I mattered. Like I was important. 6 months later, I proposed. It was not some grand romantic gesture. We were sitting in my tiny apartment, eating takeout on the floor because I did not own a proper dining table yet. She had sauce on her cheek, and I just knew. I knew I wanted to spend my life with her. "Mary, will you marry me?" I asked, without even having a ring ready. She looked at me, surprised, and then smiled. "Yes," she said. "Of course. Yes." I bought a ring the next day with money I had been saving for a new car. But I did not care. Mary was worth it. We got married 3 months later in a small ceremony. Just close family and a few friends. My mother cried during the vows. She pulled me aside afterwards and said, "David, she is wonderful. Take care of her." "I will, Mom," I promised. And I meant it. The first year of marriage was good. Great, even. We moved into a small house together. Nothing fancy. But it was ours. It had 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and a backyard that Mary said she wanted to turn into a garden. She never did, but I loved hearing her talk about it. I worked long shifts at the hospital. And Mary worked part-time. At a boutique downtown. She enjoyed it. She liked helping customers pick out clothes and accessories. She was good at it too. People loved her energy. Her smile. We were building a life. A real life together. We talked about the future. About maybe having kids one day. About traveling. About growing old together. But then she met Sarah. Sarah was a regular customer at the boutique where Mary worked. She was loud, confident, and always surrounded by people. She came from money. Real money. Her family owned multiple properties, and she did not work because she did not need to. She spent her days shopping, going to brunch, and attending events. Mary was drawn to her immediately. They became best friends within weeks. At first, I was happy for Mary. She had always been social, and I thought it was good that she had a close friend. Someone she could talk to and spend time with. But then Sarah started coming over. A lot. At first, it was just for coffee or lunch. Then it became dinner. Then it became staying late into the night. Soon, Sarah was at our house almost every day. And she never came alone. She brought friends. People I had never met. People Mary barely knew. Our small house became a constant gathering place. They would show up unannounced, stay until midnight, and leave the place a mess. I would come home from a 14-hour shift, exhausted and hungry, only to find my living room filled with people I did not know. Empty bottles on the coffee table. Pizza boxes stacked in the kitchen. Music blasting from the speakers I had bought for Mary's birthday. And Mary would be in the center of it all, laughing and chatting, completely oblivious to the fact that I existed. I remember the first time I tried to talk to her about it. It was a Tuesday night. I had just finished a double shift and came home at 11 p.m. There were 8 people in my house. Music was blasting so loud I could hear it from the driveway. I walked in and had to step over someone's legs just to get to the kitchen. "Mary, can we talk?" I asked quietly. She looked up from her conversation with Sarah, clearly annoyed. "What is it, David?" "I just think maybe we should set some boundaries about having people over," I said carefully. I did not want to start a fight. I just wanted some peace. Sarah, who was sitting right next to Mary, rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, David. Do not be such a buzzkill," she said loudly. Everyone laughed, including Mary. "Yeah, babe, relax," Mary said, waving her hand dismissively. "It is just a few friends." "A few friends?" I looked around the room. There were 8 people here. Strangers. Eating my food. Drinking my wine. Sitting on my furniture. I did not say anything else. I just nodded, went to our bedroom, and closed the door. I could still hear the music, the laughter, the voices of people who did not care that I existed. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering when my life had become like this. When had I become invisible in my own home? And why did Mary not see it? But I told myself it was temporary. That things would get better. That Mary just needed time to adjust to having close friends. I was wrong. Things did not get better. They got worse. Much worse. Over the next year, the situation spiraled out of control. Sarah practically moved into our house. She had her own drawer in our guest room. Her toothbrush was in our bathroom. Her clothes were in our closet. I came home one evening to find her asleep in our bed. Our bed. The bed I shared with my wife. I stood in the doorway, staring in disbelief. Mary was in the living room watching TV. "Mary," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Why is Sarah sleeping in our bed?" She looked at me like I was being ridiculous. "She had a fight with her boyfriend and needed a place to crash," Mary said simply. "We have a guest room. The sheets are not clean." "Then clean them." "David, she is my best friend. Stop being so difficult." "I am being difficult?" I could not believe what I was hearing. "Yes," she said, turning back to the TV. "You are always complaining about something." I walked out of the room before I said something I would regret. I slept on the couch that night. In my own house. Because my wife's friend was in my bed. The next morning, Sarah acted like nothing had happened. She walked into the kitchen in one of Mary's robes, poured herself coffee, and sat at the table scrolling through her phone. "Morning, David," she said casually. I did not respond. I grabbed my keys and left for work. At the hospital, my colleague George noticed something was wrong. "David, you okay?" he asked during our lunch break. "Yeah, I am fine," I lied. "You do not look fine. You look exhausted. Just some stuff at home. Want to talk about it?" "Not really." But George was persistent. "Come on, man. We have been working together for 5 years. I know when something is bothering you." So I told him. I told him everything. About Mary. About Sarah. About how I felt like a stranger in my own home. George listened without interrupting. When I finished, he shook his head. "David, that is not okay," he said. "You need to talk to Mary. Really talk to her." "I have tried." "Then try harder. Or consider couples therapy." "Couples therapy? I had thought about it before but dismissed the idea. Mary would never agree to it. She did not think there was a problem. But maybe George was right. Maybe I needed to push harder. That evening, I came home determined to have a serious conversation with Mary. No distractions. No interruptions. Just the two of us. But when I walked in, the house was full again. Sarah and at least 6 other people were there. Mary was showing them something on her phone, and everyone was laughing. I felt my resolve crumble. "Mary, I need to talk to you," I said loudly over the noise. She looked up, annoyed. "Can it wait, David? We are in the middle of something." "No, it cannot wait." She sighed dramatically and stood up. "Fine. Let's talk in the kitchen." We walked into the kitchen, and I closed the door behind us. "Mary, this has to stop," I said. "What has to stop?" "This. The constant parties. The people always being here. Sarah living with us. She is not living with us. She just stays over sometimes. She has a drawer here, Mary. Her toothbrush is in our bathroom. She slept in our bed last night. So what? She is my friend. And I am your husband." Mary crossed her arms. "What do you want me to do, David? Cut off my friends? I want you to prioritize our marriage. I want you to care about how I feel." "I do care." "No, you do not. If you cared, you would not let Sarah take over our home. You would not dismiss me every time I try to talk to you. You are being dramatic." Dramatic? I could feel my anger rising. I work 12-hour shifts to pay for this house. To pay for the food they eat and the wine they drink. And you call me dramatic for wanting some peace. "If you have such a problem with it, then maybe you should leave," she said coldly. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Maybe I should." She blinked, surprised. "What? Maybe I should leave, since you clearly do not want me here." "David, stop being ridiculous." But I was not being ridiculous. For the first time, I was being honest. I walked out of the kitchen, grabbed my jacket, and left. I did not come back that night. I checked into a cheap motel near the hospital and lay on the uncomfortable bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed constantly. Mary calling. Mary texting. But I did not answer. I needed space. I needed to think. The next morning, I went to work early. I threw myself into my job, trying to distract myself from the disaster my marriage had become. But no matter how hard I tried, I could not stop thinking about what Mary had said. "Maybe you should leave." The words played on repeat in my mind. Did she really mean that? Or was she just angry? Either way, the fact that she could say it so easily hurt. After my shift, I drove back to the motel. I could not go home yet. I was not ready. George called me that evening. "David, I heard what happened," he said. "How did you hear?" "Mary called my wife, asking if I knew where you were." "What did you tell her?" "That I did not know." "But seriously, man, are you okay? Honestly?" "No. I am not okay. Do you want to come stay with us for a few days?" "I appreciate it, George, but I need to figure this out on my own." "All right, but if you need anything, call me." "Thanks, man." I spent 3 days at that motel. 3 days, thinking about my marriage. About everything I had sacrificed. About how invisible I had become. And I realized something. I could not do this anymore. I could not keep living like this. I deserved better. So I called a lawyer. "I know this sounds impulsive," I told him. "But I need to file for divorce." "How long have you been married?" he asked. 5 years. "Any children?" "No." "Any significant assets?" "We own a house together." "Joint bank account?" "All right. I will draft the papers and have them ready within a week." "Thank you." That week was the hardest of my life. I moved back home but avoided Mary as much as possible. She tried talking to me several times, but I shut her down. I was done talking. Talking had gotten me nowhere. When the papers arrived, I sat in my car outside the house for over an hour, just staring at the envelope. This was it. The end of my marriage. Part of me felt sad. But a bigger part of me felt relieved. I walked inside. And of course, Sarah and her friends were there. I set the papers on the coffee table in front of Mary. She picked them up. Confused. And then Sarah started laughing. That is when everything changed. After I walked out that day, leaving Mary holding the divorce papers, while her friends laughed, I felt something I had not felt in years. Freedom. For the first time, I was not worried about coming home to a house full of strangers. I was not worried about what Mary thought or whether I was being too demanding. I was just free. I moved into a small apartment, near the hospital. It was nothing special. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living room barely big enough for a couch. But it was mine. Quiet. Peaceful. No music blasting at midnight. No empty bottles on the counter. No Sarah. Just me. The first night in that apartment, I sat on the floor because I had not bought furniture yet. I ordered pizza and ate it straight from the box. And I smiled. I actually smiled. Because for the first time in 5 years, I felt like myself again. But the peace did not last long. Mary started calling. At first, I ignored her. But she was relentless. Dozens of calls. Dozens of texts. David, please, we need to talk. David, why are you doing this? David, I do not understand. I blocked her number. But then she started showing up at the hospital. The first time, she waited in the parking lot after my shift. David, please, she said, stepping in front of my car. We need to talk. There is nothing to talk about, Mary. I filed the papers. It is over. But I do not understand why. I almost laughed. You do not understand? No. You just left without explaining anything. I explained plenty of times, Mary. You just never listened. She shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. This is about Sarah, is not it? You have always been jealous of my friendship with her. Jealous? I was not jealous. I was exhausted. This is not about Sarah, I said firmly. This is about you. About how you treated me for 5 years. About how you made me feel like I did not matter. That is not true, she said. It is true. And deep down, you know it. She did not have a response. I drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot. Over the next few weeks, I started focusing on myself. Something I had not done in years. I started going to therapy. My therapist, a woman in her 50s named Dr. Ellis, helped me unpack everything. David, you gave up so much of yourself in that marriage, she said during one session. You lost your identity, trying to make her happy. I know. But the good news is, you can rebuild. You can find yourself again. And that is what I did. I started exercising again. I joined a gym near my apartment and went every morning before work. It felt good to take care of my body. To push myself physically. To feel strong. I also started reconnecting with old friends. People I had lost touch with because I was always too busy dealing with Mary's chaos. One of those friends was George from the hospital. We started having lunch together regularly. Man, you look different, George said one day. In a good way. I feel different, I admitted. I feel like myself again. That is great, David. You deserve to be happy. Thanks, George. I also started dating. Nothing serious at first. Just casual coffee dates here and there. It was strange at first. I had been with Mary for 7 years. I did not know how to talk to other women anymore. But slowly, I got comfortable. And I realized something. There were people out there who actually listened. Who valued my time. Who did not dismiss my feelings. It was refreshing. Meanwhile, I heard through mutual friends that things were not going well for Mary. Apparently, after I left, she threw herself even more into her social life. Parties every weekend. Dinners and trips with Sarah and the others. But cracks were starting to show. Without me there to pay for everything, Mary was struggling financially. She had quit her job at the boutique 2 years into our marriage. She said it was boring and unfulfilling. I had supported her decision, thinking she would find something else eventually. But she never did. She just spent her days with Sarah. Now, without my income, she could not afford the mortgage on the house. She also could not afford the expensive dinners and weekend trips she had become accustomed to. I heard through George's wife that Mary had asked Sarah for help. Sarah, who had always acted like Mary's best friend, said no. Apparently, Sarah told her, I have my own expenses to worry about. After that, Sarah started distancing herself from Mary. Stopped inviting her to things. Stopped answering her calls as quickly. The other friends followed suit. Turns out, they were only around when Mary was fun and carefree. When she started struggling, they disappeared. One evening, about 3 months after I left, Mary called me from an unknown number. I answered, thinking it was work-related. David, please do not hang up, she said immediately. What do you want, Mary? I just need to see you. Please. Just once. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. We met at a coffee shop near my apartment. She looked different. Tired. Her hair was not styled the way it usually was. She was not wearing makeup. Her clothes were simple, not the designer outfits she used to wear. She looked small. Defeated. Thank you for meeting me, she said quietly as she sat down across from me. I did not say anything. I just waited. David, I know I messed up, she started. I know I did not treat you the way I should have. I was selfish. I took you for granted. Yes, you did. And I am sorry. I am so sorry. I looked at her. There was a time when an apology from her would have meant everything. But now it just felt too late. Why are you apologizing now, Mary? I asked. Is it because you actually realize what you did wrong? Or is it because Sarah and your friends are not around anymore? She looked down at her hands. Both, she admitted quietly. At least she was honest. I am selling the house, she continued. I cannot afford it on my own. And I have been looking for a job, but it is hard. I have not worked in years, and no one wants to hire me. I am sorry to hear that, I said. And I meant it. I did not wish bad things on Mary. But I also was not going to fix her problems. David, do you think there is any chance we could try again? She asked, her voice breaking. No, I said simply. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. Why not? Because you did not value me when you had me. You only want me back now because you are struggling. That is not love, Mary. That is convenience. She started crying harder. People in the coffee shop were starting to look. But I did not care. I hope you figure things out, I said, standing up. I really do. But it will not be with me. I left the coffee shop. And I did not feel guilty. For the first time, I had chosen myself. And it felt right. 3 months passed after that meeting with Mary. I was doing well. Really well. Work was great. I had been promoted to head nurse in my department, a position I had been working toward for years. The recognition felt good. It reminded me that I was capable. That I had value. Outside of work, my life was coming together too. I had met someone. Her name was Rebecca. She was a teacher at an elementary school near the hospital. We met at a charity event, ironically similar to how I had met Mary all those years ago. But Rebecca was different. Completely different. She was kind, thoughtful, and most importantly, she listened. She asked about my day. She remembered small details. She made me feel seen in a way I had not felt in years. We had been dating for 2 months, and things were moving naturally. No pressure. No drama. Just 2 people enjoying each other's company. One Saturday evening, Rebecca and I decided to have dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. It was a place I had been wanting to try for months. We were seated near the window, and the atmosphere was perfect. Soft lighting, quiet music, good food. Rebecca was telling me a funny story about one of her students when I saw her. Mary. She was sitting alone at a table across the room. She looked even thinner than the last time I had seen her. Her clothes were plain. No jewelry. No designer bag. She was scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up at the people around her. She looked lonely. Rebecca noticed me staring. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said quickly. Sorry. Do you know her? I hesitated. That is my ex-wife. Rebecca looked over at Mary, then back at me. Do you want to say hello? No, I said. That chapter of my life is over. Rebecca nodded and squeezed my hand gently. Okay. We continued our meal, but I could not stop glancing over at Mary. She looked so different from the woman I had married. The confident, vibrant woman who had pulled me into her world. Now she just looked lost. As we finished our meal and prepared to leave, Mary saw me. Her eyes widened. She stood up quickly, almost knocking over her water glass. David, she called out. People in the restaurant turned to look. I sighed. Rebecca squeezed my hand again. It is okay, she said softly. Go talk to her if you need to. I will be quick, I promised. I walked over to Mary's table. Hello, Mary, I said. David, I did not know you would be here, she said nervously. You look good. Thank you. There was an awkward silence. Who is that? She asked, nodding toward Rebecca. My girlfriend. Mary's face fell. Oh, she said quietly. That is nice. I am happy for you. I could tell she was not happy. But I appreciated the effort. How have you been? I asked, trying to be polite. Honestly? Not great, she admitted. I moved into a small apartment. I am working at a retail store now. It is not much, but it pays the bills. I am glad you found something, I said. She nodded. I also wanted to say again, I am sorry for everything. I know I hurt you. I know I was a terrible wife, and I do not expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know that I see it now. I see everything I did wrong. I appreciate that, I said. And I meant it. Do you forgive me? She asked. Her eyes hopeful. I thought about it for a moment. I do, I said finally. But that does not mean I want you back in my life. Her face crumpled, but she nodded. I understand, she whispered. Take care of yourself, Mary. I said. You too, David. And thank you. For everything you did for me. I did not deserve it. I walked back to Rebecca, and we left the restaurant. As we drove home, Rebecca asked. How do you feel? I thought about it. Honestly. Free, I said. I feel free. That is good, she said, smiling. But that night, as I lay in bed, I could not stop thinking about Mary. Not because I missed her, but because I realized something. She had lost everything. Her friends, her lifestyle, her home. And in a way, it was her own doing. She had chosen her friends over me. She had prioritized parties over her marriage. And now, those same friends had abandoned her. It was poetic, in a sad way. But I also felt a strange sense of closure. Because seeing her like that confirmed what I already knew. I had made the right decision. Leaving her was not just about ending a bad marriage. It was about choosing myself. About realizing that I deserved better. And I had found better. I had found Rebecca. I had found peace. I had found myself again. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. Rebecca was still asleep next to me. Her hair spread across the pillow. I watched her for a moment, feeling grateful. Grateful that I had walked away from Mary. Grateful that I had taken the time to heal. Grateful that I had opened myself up to love again. Later that day, George called me. David, I need to tell you something, he said. What is it? It is about Mary. What about her? She has been asking around about you. Trying to find out where you live. Where you work. Who you are dating. I frowned. Why? I do not know. But I thought you should know. Thanks for telling me, George. After we hung up, I felt uneasy. Why was Mary asking about me? I decided to call her. She answered on the first ring. David? Mary, I heard you have been asking about me. What is going on? She was silent for a moment. I just wanted to see how you were doing, she said finally. Mary, we are divorced. You need to move on. I know. I am trying. It is just hard. I understand. But you cannot keep looking back. You need to focus on your future. I know, she said quietly. I am sorry. It is okay. Just please, stop asking about me. It is not healthy for either of us. Okay, she agreed. I will stop. Take care, Mary. You too, David. I hung up and sighed. Rebecca walked into the room. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. Just some loose ends. She smiled and kissed my forehead. Well, I am here if you need to talk. I know, I said. And I am grateful for that. Because I was grateful for Rebecca. For George. For everyone who had supported me through this difficult time. And I was grateful for myself. For having the courage to walk away. For choosing my own happiness. For finally putting myself first. 6 months after running into Mary at the restaurant, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Rebecca and I had moved in together. It was a big step, but it felt right. She brought light into my life in ways I had not experienced before. We cooked dinner together. We watched movies on the couch. We talked about our days, our dreams, our future. Everything felt easy with her. Natural. Like this was how relationships were supposed to be. One evening, we were planning a weekend trip when my phone rang. It was George. Hey, man, what is up? I answered. David, you need to come to the hospital. Now. What? Why? I am off today. It is not about work. It is about Mary. She is here. My stomach dropped. What happened? She collapsed at her apartment. A neighbor called an ambulance. They brought her here. Is she okay? I do not know. But she has been asking for you. I will be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and looked at Rebecca. I have to go to the hospital, I said. Is everything okay? It is Mary. She collapsed. Rebecca's expression softened. Go, she said. I will be here when you get back. Thank you, I said, kissing her quickly before grabbing my keys. The drive to the hospital felt longer than usual. My mind was racing. What happened to Mary? Was she sick? Was it serious? Part of me did not want to care. She was my ex-wife. This was not my problem anymore. But another part of me, the part that had loved her for 7 years, could not just ignore it. When I arrived at the hospital, George was waiting for me in the lobby. She is in room 312, he said. What happened? Severe malnutrition and dehydration. She has been struggling, David. Really struggling. I felt a pang of guilt. Can I see her? Yeah. She is awake. I walked to her room, my heart pounding. I pushed open the door and saw her lying in the hospital bed. She looked fragile. So much smaller than I remembered. Her cheeks were hollow. Her eyes were sunken. She looked like a ghost of the woman I had married. David, she said weakly, a small smile forming on her lips. Mary, I said. Walking closer. What happened? I have not been taking care of myself, she admitted. I lost my job a few weeks ago. I could not afford food. I just gave up. Why did not you ask for help? Who would I ask? My parents are not talking to me. Sarah and the others are gone. You are the only person I had left, and I already ruined that. I sat down in the chair next to her bed. Mary, you cannot do this to yourself. I know, she said, tears streaming down her face. But I do not know how to fix it. I do not know how to move forward. Everything is falling apart. I felt torn. Part of me wanted to help her, to offer support. But another part of me knew I could not be her savior. Mary, I am going to be honest with you, I said. I cannot be the one to fix your life. You have to do that yourself. I know. But I can help you find resources, therapy, job placement programs, food assistance. She nodded. Why are you helping me? She asked. After everything I did to you. Because despite everything, I do not want to see you suffer, I said. But you need to understand something. This is the last time. After this, you need to stand on your own. I understand. She whispered. Over the next few days, I helped Mary get connected with resources. I reached out to social workers at the hospital. I found her a therapist who specialized in helping people rebuild their lives. I even helped her apply for jobs. But I kept my distance emotionally. Rebecca was supportive throughout. You are a good person, David, she said one night. Not everyone would help their ex like this. I just want her to be okay, I said. So, I can fully move on without guilt. And that was the truth. I needed Mary to be okay. Not for her sake, but for mine. 2 weeks later, Mary was discharged from the hospital. She had gained some weight and looked healthier. She came to see me before she left. Thank you, David, she said. For everything. I do not deserve your kindness. You are right. You do not. But I did it anyway. Now it is up to you to take it from here. I will, she promised, and I am sorry. For everything. I know, I said. She turned to leave, then stopped. Can I ask you one more thing? What? Are you happy? I thought about it. Yes, I said. I am. She smiled sadly. Good. You deserve to be happy. So do you, Mary. You just have to choose it. She nodded and walked away. And I knew that was the last time I would see her. That evening, I went home to Rebecca. She was cooking dinner, humming to herself. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. Thank you, I said. For what? For being patient. For understanding. For being you. She turned around and kissed me. You do not have to thank me, she said. I love you, David. It was the first time she had said it. And I realized I felt the same. I love you too, I said. And in that moment, I knew. I had finally moved on. Not just from Mary. But from the man I used to be. The man who sacrificed everything for someone who did not appreciate him. The man who felt invisible. I was no longer that man. I was someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who knew his worth. And I was finally, truly happy. Later that night, as Rebecca and I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. The pain. The betrayal. The divorce. The healing. And I realized something. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing. Because if Mary had not chosen her friends over me, I would still be invisible. I would still be sacrificing my happiness for someone who did not care. But now, I was free. Free to be myself. Free to love someone who loved me back. Free to live the life I deserved. And that was worth everything. Rebecca stirred next to me. You okay? She asked sleepily. Yeah, I said, pulling her closer. I am perfect. And I meant it. Because for the first time in years, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. With someone who valued me. With someone who saw me. With someone who chose me. Every single day. And that made all the difference. 1 year later, Rebecca and I stood in front of our closest friends and family. Exchanging vows. The wedding was small, intimate, and everything I had ever wanted. Rebecca looked stunning in her simple white dress. Her smile was radiant as she held my hands. David, she said, her voice steady and full of emotion. You taught me what it means to truly see someone. To value them. To choose them every single day. And I promise to choose you, today, and every day after. Tears welled up in my eyes. Rebecca, I said, my voice thick with emotion. For so long, I felt invisible. But you saw me. You valued me. You loved me for exactly who I am. And I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you feel just as seen, just as valued, and just as loved. We exchanged rings. We kissed. And everyone cheered. It was perfect. After the ceremony, during the reception, George pulled me aside. I am proud of you, man, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. You have come a long way. Thanks. George. I could not have done it without you. You did the hard part. You chose yourself. That takes courage. I smiled. Yeah. It does. Later that evening, as Rebecca and I danced our first dance as husband and wife, I felt overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude for the pain that had led me here. Gratitude for the strength I had found within myself. Gratitude for Rebecca, who had shown me what real love looked like. As the song ended, Rebecca whispered in my ear, "I am so lucky to have you." "I am the lucky one," I whispered back. And I meant it. The days and weeks after the wedding were blissful. Rebecca and I settled into married life easily. We traveled, we laughed, we built a home together. A real home. One filled with love, respect, and mutual support. One day, about 3 months after the wedding, I received a message on social media. It was from Sarah, Mary's former best friend. The one who had abandoned her when things got tough. "Hey David," the message read. "I know this is random, but I wanted to reach out. I heard you got married. Congratulations. I also wanted to apologize for how I acted during your marriage to Mary. I was a terrible friend to both of you. I hope you are doing well." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but another part of me felt like responding. So I did. "Thank you for the apology, Sarah. I appreciate it. I am doing well. I hope you are too." Short. Simple. No anger. No resentment. Just closure. She responded a few minutes later. "I am glad. And for what it is worth, Mary is doing better too. She got a good job and is in therapy. She is really working on herself." I smiled. "That is good to hear. She deserves to be happy." And I meant it. Mary and I had been through hell together. But I did not wish her harm. I just wished her healing. And happiness. On her own terms. A few months later, Rebecca and I found out we were expecting a baby. The news was overwhelming in the best way. "We are going to be parents," Rebecca said, tears streaming down her face. "We are," I said, holding her close. In that moment, I felt complete. I had everything I had ever wanted. A loving partner. A family on the way. A career I was proud of. And most importantly, I had myself. I had reclaimed my identity. My worth. My voice. As the months passed and Rebecca's belly grew, I often thought about the journey that had brought me here. The pain of feeling invisible. The heartbreak of divorce. The struggle to rebuild. And the joy of finding real love. It had all been worth it. Every tear. Every sleepless night. Every moment of doubt. Because it had led me here. To this life. To this happiness. One evening, as Rebecca and I sat on the couch, her head resting on my shoulder, she asked, "Do you ever think about Mary?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But not in the way you might think." "What do you mean?" "I think about how that experience taught me what I do not want. And it makes me appreciate what I have with you even more." She smiled. "I am glad you went through it," she said. "Because it brought you to me." "Me too," I said. And I meant it. Because sometimes the worst chapters of your life lead to the best ones. You just have to have the courage to turn the page. Months later, our daughter was born. We named her Grace. Because she was a gift. A reminder of everything good that had come from choosing myself. Holding her in my arms for the first time, I made a silent promise. I promised to always see her. To always value her. To teach her that she deserves to be loved, respected, and chosen. Every single day. As Grace grew, so did our little family. Rebecca and I built a life filled with love, laughter, and purpose. We taught Grace kindness, empathy, and self-worth. We showed her what a healthy relationship looked like. And we made sure she knew that she never had to make herself small for anyone. Years passed. Grace started school. Rebecca continued teaching. I eventually became the director of nursing at the hospital. Life was full, rich, meaningful. One day, I ran into Mary at a grocery store. It had been over 5 years since I had last seen her. She looked different. Healthier. Happier. She was with someone, a man who held her hand gently. "David," she said, surprised. "Mary," I said, smiling. "You look well." "Thank you. So do you." There was no awkwardness. No tension. Just two people who had once been married and had now moved on. "This is Eric," she said, gesturing to the man beside her. "Nice to meet you," I said, shaking his hand. "You too," Eric said warmly. We chatted briefly. She told me she was working as a manager at a local business. That she was in a good place. That she had learned a lot about herself. "I am happy for you," I said sincerely. "Thank you, David." And thank you for helping me when I was at my lowest. I do not think I ever properly thanked you for that. You are welcome, I said. I am glad you are doing well. You too, she said, glancing at the wedding ring on my finger. You remarried? Yes. Her name is Rebecca. We have a daughter. That is wonderful, she said, her smile genuine. You deserve all the happiness in the world. So do you, Mary. And with that, we parted ways. No drama. No regret. Just two people who had once shared a life and were now living separate, fulfilling ones. That evening, I told Rebecca about running into Mary. How do you feel? She asked. At peace, I said. Completely at peace. And I was. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot love someone else if you do not love yourself first. And you cannot be seen by others if you do not first see yourself. For years, I had made myself invisible trying to make Mary happy. But in the end, the only person who could make me visible was me. And once I chose myself, everything else fell into place. As I tucked Grace into bed that night, she asked, Daddy, do you love Mommy? More than anything, I said. Why? Because she sees me. She values me. And she chooses me every day. And I do the same for her. Grace smiled. I want that when I grow up. You will, sweetheart. And you will never settle for anything less. Because that was the legacy I wanted to leave. Not one of sacrifice and invisibility, but one of self-worth, self-love, and the courage to walk away from anything that diminishes you. Years later, as I sat on the porch watching Rebecca and Grace play in the yard, I reflected on my journey. I thought about the man I used to be, the man who felt invisible, the man who sacrificed everything. And I realized that man was gone. In his place was someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who knew his worth, and someone who would never again settle for being invisible. Because I had learned the most valuable lesson. The greatest love story is not the one you have with someone else. It is the one you have with yourself. And mine had a happy ending.